Hey, welcome back. In this video, I want to actually just spend this whole video talking about the types of products that you can sell online. And if you happen to be working with us, I want to get into the types of products that I think we do best. First of all, digital video courses. I was sitting with a lady the other day that we might work with, and she's just like, oh, e-courses. And she went on to name a couple of these high-profile online marketers, and she's just like, I don't want to do it. Those guys are such douchebags. And then she had one of their books on her counter. And I was just laughing because I was just like, look, she's a social influencer, and it was just one of those things like, I would never sell an e-course to your audience, but you would call it a video series or a video workshop. That's what your audience, how they would respond. You know, so a lot of that is language. It's just like, if a video course today is what a DVD was 10 years ago, or what, you know, VHS was, it's this idea of a series of, or, you know, a bunch of content around a topic or around, an idea that you frame around and you sell specific to your audience. So think about a book, or think about, okay, yeah, it doesn't have to like this. This is in my kitchen, shot with a camera. Nobody else is in this room. My son set this thing up for me, but I go, this is me sharing with you how to do this. Just like if you were sitting with me in my office, you would go, oh, this is like Craig. This is what he looks like. This is how he talks. This is the same sort of thing that I could do. You know, I once met a guy who's a pretty, big deal in this kind of online world. I wanted to get to know him. I didn't want to be best friends. I just wanted to find out how he did it. He's like, I had $2,500 for 3 hours. So I flew down there and he gave me a deal for $1,500, and we sat with him and we just asked him a bunch of questions. So I was just like, that's good. But if you actually put that on video, you could sell that, probably a whole lot more cheaper, and you could reach a whole lot more people rather than having to do that over and over and over again. So sometimes, to me, that's where I say, if you've been saying the same thing more than 10 times and you've told 10 people that thing, there's a chance 10 more people want to know that information. So a video series can revolve around a how-to. It can revolve around something that somebody else doesn't know. It can be business to business. It can be business to consumer. It can be on a range of things. Like I said, it's probably what we do. I wouldn't even say best. It's what we do first with a lot of people, because it's one day of shooting, or it's a couple hours of shooting, and then you put it out there. Like literally, I can put this thing out, the next day if I wanted to. And the sweetest things, like why I use Kajabi, like I'm probably never gonna move off Kajabi because I think these guys are rock stars, and I have friends of mine that created this program. In fact, if you sign up with my link below, you're gonna get a way better deal with Kajabi than you'll get on your own. Friends of mine, like I said, the guys that I met at a workshop years ago, where they go, we've made it easy. Craig, if you can upload a video on YouTube, you can upload it to Kajabi. The difference, you're gonna get paid, and they have the whole system. It's not just like the burger, and they gave me this analogy. It's the hamburger, it's the lettuce, the tomato, the bun, it's all of that. They have the landing page, they have the squeeze page, they have the credit card sign up. You can get set up with them in a matter of moments, put a video up for sale, and then it starts generating traffic. You even now can put that on your URL. So like you're on this site right now, videos, I think, howtosellonline.com. This is Kajabi. It's just branded on my URL. You do all that. So it doesn't say videos.mykajabi.com. That looks, crappy. All I'm saying is these are easy. So I have obviously, just because they're friends, like I have this set up on our Kajabi account where I can add numerous different URLs and sub-accounts under one account. You have that option too, depending on kind of the thing that you build. So all that to say is like, it's quick, it's easy, it's fast, and if I'm just being honest, you can charge, because it's instant to your customer, you can charge a whole lot more than you used to be able to charge just for a DVD. And the way people engage with your content, it's different now. I mean, we live in a world where Netflix, it's just on demand, and people expect that. The thing with Kajabi is you can actually make some of your videos available for download if you want. Most of our courses, we recommend that we don't make them available to be downloaded. I've seen some people take them and upload them then to YouTube or Vimeo. We're like, no, these are ours. They're behind closed doors. You have to log into Kajabi, and then you actually get access to them. And then you're able to stream them. You're able to watch them online, and you pay for that product. Kajabi is so awesome that you can actually drip content. So let's say you have this video series like I do, how to sell online. I could launch one video and then tell you next week you're going to get the other video. And this week I could be creating that content, but I've already sold you this product that I haven't even created. I didn't do that with this one, but there's videos that I've bought and where I'm like, dude, you didn't even create this thing yet. It's still to come. So you can drop all that content at once, or you can drop that content over time. I love video series. I've seen them and I've bought them from $2 to $2,000+. And you might go, you spent $2,000 on video series? Yeah, I spent $2,000 on video series. Obviously, like that's a lot of money, but I know getting with that person, like it's invaluable. And those things have taught me a lot. Depending on your price point and your audience, you know, I think to me, with some of our social influencers and some of these kind of quick courses, we like the $49 to $79 price point. Sometimes we bundle the video series with actual physical books. The best and the sweetest, highest profit margin that you're gonna have is when you sell a video course with an ebook download and you don't ship anything. And Kajabi is just great for that, where you just go, man, here it is, you've got it. There's some upsell opportunities we'll talk about in a whole nother video. Once they have that, like, man, you have an opportunity to upsell them. Or there's an opportunity, obviously, to give away videos and then upsell them to a paid video. So video series, I think I want you to, the how-to stuff, how to play guitar, how to, do this on Photoshop, how to knit, how to play tennis, there's several different ideas and things that are out there that are being done on a video series. I told you about in this other video series, the speech therapist that I know. Hey, there's so many different mini courses that we've kind of kicked around ideas for her on, you do the R's and then you do the S's, or you bundle this one together. The sky's the limit with what you can do there. So that would be the first product. One of the other types of products that we sell a lot of and that I'd recommend, and it seems to be what everybody these days wants, they want a book. I've talked about that prior where, hey, you want to be published. Well, why not publish yourself? So here's what we do with all of our authors to start, just so you guys are aware, and it's what I would recommend. I mean, all these things that I do, it's what I'd recommend you do, and the entry level to get in is a whole lot easier. Once again, a publisher is going to spend the money to print books up front. They're going to, store them somewhere. They're going to ship them out to all the bookstores. The bookstores aren't going to sell them. Then they're going to return to them. I mean, it's just a nightmare. Amazon, best company I think right now in the world, they acquired a company called CreateSpace, which is an on-demand publisher. I told you if you watched the 3-part video series about my 10-year-old at the time publishing a book. So if she can do it, obviously with my help, you can do that as well. And now let's talk about this for a second. Some people want to publish a book for various reasons. Obviously, if we're going to do business with somebody, we want to sell books and we want to sell a lot of them. And we want to make some money doing it along the way. But for some of you, having a book means, kind of instant credibility, because no one knows, oh, you self-published it. Obviously, if it looks like trash, they know that. But I have a friend, like I talked about in the other series, about Eric, who has this acting studio, and he's super legit. He asked me about doing a book and what I recommended. And I was like, man, for you, Eric, it would be a great thing to have when people walk into your office or your acting studio, and they said, right there's a front photo of you on this book cover with, a headshot type thing, and it had your book there. Now, one, people would buy it just because they're like, oh, well, this is the guy who owns the studio. Two, it seems now like instant credibility because your words are on a page, even if you actually were the ones to put those words on the page. Not just write it, but actually get that thing printed and out the door. I know I go to this gym called Orange Theory. They have that same thing where it's some lady who created, I guess, Orange Theory. I don't know, her book's right there in the front of the studio. I've never bought it or picked it up. I just get in and get out of the class. But, maybe you're thinking, well, wow, that book is going to add credibility You don't even need it for money. That's going to help you sell something else. That's the power these days of what a book can do. And let me tell you, there are so many easy ways to get that done and literally within a week have it in your hands. CreateSpace, I'll link to below. I like them. There's a lot of other companies, and don't be fooled. There's a lot of companies online that will say, hey, we'll do this, we'll do this. In the end, they're just kind of middlemen, printers, or they're middlemen. They're not even real publishers. Don't believe a publisher that's gonna, there's a lot of scams out there. The reason why I like CreateSpace is they're owned by Amazon. I could talk to you for hours about the benefits of doing business when it comes to books with the company that is the largest book seller in the world. So there's Ingram and there's some other these other companies. I mean, there's several of them. The one I'm going to hone in on is CreateSpace because their direct relationship with Amazon is key because there's no middleman there. And it's ridiculous when you start breaking down the numbers what can happen with a CreateSpace book and Amazon. So here's what you do. You go to CreateSpace, you create a simple account, and you start uploading your assets to there. And they're going to tell you, hey, do you want it 6x9, 8.5 by 7.5? You pick the size, you pick the trim. They're going to give you templates, so then you can go hire a designer. Now, this gets tricky. Ebooks are easy. When it gets to actual print books, I'm just going to tell you, designers, I've worked with hundreds of designers over the last 20 years. I haven't met one that loves doing interior layouts of books because it's tedious, and it's the margins and the prints and there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and almost every time it does. And so it's just forewarning you. It's key to get obviously a great design on the cover. And then also you need that interior design depending on what you're doing. If it's a workbook, you need room to write in. If it's just a normal book, it's going to be black and white interior and pretty simple. But that process to do on your own, I wouldn't recommend it unless you're just amazing designer. You don't want to publish a self-published book and have it look like it's self-published. I would argue that the books that we've published, either self-published for our nonprofit or the company books, Aloha and Rain, we're gonna go not even neck and neck with the publisher. I believe our stuff is better designed and it looks better than what a publisher would actually do. The same designers are at your disposal. Obviously, sky's the limit on what you could pay. I would say, because I've done this a lot, on average we're paying about $2,500 for a book package design, and then the interior about $1,500. So maybe call it $4,000 to have a book design, interior and exterior. Now, I've done books for $500, so I'm just saying $4,000 is what we're going to spend for something just kick-ass that's going to just look great. Don't spend, this isn't a Fiverr type thing where you're just trust me, I get so many books in the mail, they're just like, hey, will you endorse this or this? And I can tell a lot by what it looks like. I want to send something to somebody and have them go, oh, who published this? Instead of oh, sure, they did it on their own. Once you upload to CreateSpace, you're kind of set to go. And then there's a link that actually says right there on CreateSpace, publish to Amazon. And then there's another link that says publish to other third-party sellers like Ingram Spark and Barnes & Noble. So your book through CreateSpace can actually get to Barnes & Nobles and Amazon. And then you start getting checks or direct deposit from Amazon within 1 month. You're able to purchase that book then, one copy at a time, depending on your page count, between $2 and $4. So if it's a huge 300-page book, whatever, it might cost you $4. Now that's more expensive. You print books in bulk. I can get books in India. I can get books at other printers in Minnesota that we use. I can link to some of the other printers. Most real printers are going to want you to print 1,000 books minimum. But to get a good deal, you're going to have to print 5,000 to 10,000. Your prices are going to go down dramatically, but what is great about CreateSpace is I can try a book out, see how it does. I can order obviously one at a time, or if I think, okay, this is good, I could order 300-400 of those, and yeah, it's going to cost me $2 compared to 80 cents. But I'm not now sitting on that stock. And I'll give you this breakdown. Like I said prior, Jeff and I, we sold on Creative Ways, I think 65,000 copies of these books. We printed them all on CreateSpace. Now I can get into, on a later video, I'll get into actually how we did that. Around the clock, we had people working. That's once we ramped up and we were selling a lot through Facebook ads. But basically, every order that came in on our site, we had somebody on our team, or my kid or somebody, that actually entered in an order on the back end of CreateSpace and shipped those books out. We never touched the books, and we never kept the inventory, and we never ran that risk of sitting on a bunch of books. We also didn't have any outlay of expense. So yeah, it cost us $2.27, but we didn't have to pay for anything in advance. Fast forward, after we'd sold so many of those books, Jeff and I were like, hey, let's order 10,000 of these books. So those books, for instance, ended up costing us 78 cents compared to $2.27. So now the savings was like dramatic, but do the math. 10,000 times 8 cents. There was 2 of those books, so that was 20,000. Then we had to store those and get fulfillment and deal with that headache, which we'll get to obviously later. And that's all a possibility. There's places out there that will do all that for you. But getting into this to start, put it out there and take orders, put it for sale on your site, and then put it for sale automatically on Amazon. And the orders that come in on your site, you can simply just log on to CreateSpace, send out an order one at a time to the customer that buys that. And let's say your margins are still pretty good. You sell for 15, you bought it for, say, $2.50, and there's no expenses. Now, that's books. Obviously, you're then going to get that book to ebook, and you're going to get that digital copies as well. People want books these days. But the margins, as you can see, compared to a video course that you could sell for $50 or $500 or $1,000, $2,000, a book, I mean, we've sold one book, and it's the book for Jack Douglas for $27.99. Now, this was a hardback book. This is kind of goes against our normal strategy because CreateSpace doesn't do hardback full color books. I think they might, but it'd be like $20 a book. So for Jack, after his pre-sale numbers were so good, we realized, hey, this book is worth actually printing. But this book is like, it's full color, it's amazing design, it just looks incredible. It's the YIAY book you can see online. Those books came in, I think, at about $3.20, and we ran 5,000 at a time on those. But for the most part, start with a book and just start slow, and then make a decision. The fun thing too about CreateSpace is, oh crap, I misspelled something, or I forgot this, or I need to add this later. Literally within 24 hours, you upload a new file, and within 24 hours, that's for sale again. And you're never out of stock. You know how many ads I see today for people that are selling online, and then you go to their website and it says, hey, in stock, in a month. People don't want to wait. And the other thing too that you have to, I'll do a whole video just about Amazon, but just while we're on books, do not put a book for sale and not have it on Amazon. I'll never send anybody to Amazon because obviously the margins are better if you buy it from our sites directly. By default, people end up on Amazon for anything, especially a book. So if you're selling a book and it's not on Amazon, like you're missing out on a huge market because people will see your promotion, they'll see your site, and they'll go, oh, I have Prime. Let me see if Amazon has this. So, all right, you've got to be on Amazon. The fun thing too about CreateSpace, I don't get it, but I'm just going to give you the math here. Creative Ways was this book with Jeff. It retailed at $15.99 is what we put retail. We sold them together as a bundle for $32.99 on our site, but the retail was $15.99. So I put that in there. There's some steps too when creating your book on CreateSpace. It's gonna, the one thing it's gonna ask you for is to get a ISBN number. And not to get super geeked up on you, but like library talk or whatever, that's like the number that all books need to have. You can get a free CreateSpace ISBN number and you just click the button and they'll give it to you free. I actually don't recommend it. Here's why. If your book takes off, and you decide to print several thousand copies like we've done in the past, like I just explained to you, I want to be prepared for that. You need to buy an ISBN number for $99. They give you a link there. You can buy it right there on CreateSpace. So that way, if you print on CreateSpace or if you print yourself. You own the ISBN. It's not owned by CreateSpace. So that's the only thing there that I'd recommend. But here's the math. So $15.99 is what we sell the book for. The book price that we pay is dependent on the page count. For Creative Ways, I'm telling you, it was $2.17, I believe. That's what the book cost me. So anytime I place an order it's $2.17. Now, Amazon, there's a whole different relationship. I can upload my books right to Amazon, and we can get to that when we get into the Amazon video. But for the sake of this conversation, with CreateSpace, they do that, and they work that relationship out for you. And you'll see right there it says $15.99, and it will say, when you sell this book on Amazon, they take care of that. They stock it, they ship it, they do all that stuff. That Amazon relationship is all on them, which, trust me, that's a giant headache dealing with Amazon directly, shipping to all their different warehouses, keeping track of inventory. For some reason, CreateSpace and Amazon, since they're owned by each other, they handle all that. And so that $15.99 book nets me $6.85 when it's sold on Amazon. Guys, sometimes the numbers, they don't even make sense, because Amazon drops your price depending on your volume. So some days we'd go online and we'd see our book is like $10.97. And we're like, what the heck? Why is it so cheap? Do the math. You're like, $10.97. I called and I was like, hey, do I still get my $6.84? You get your same price that is on that page regardless of what they sell it for. In Amazon, if you read the Jeff Bezos book, I mean, they'll lose money on a purchase like that in order to get you long term to acquire a customer, but they'll still pay it out. So in that case, it's just like, guys, I don't get it. Like, they buy it on Amazon, I don't have to touch it, and I make $6.84. I don't have to ship it, I don't have any of those costs. So for me to sell it, if I sell it for $32.99 as a bundle, so that's, $16 a book, I've got to pay for the shipping, I've got to pay for the warehousing, I've got to do all that if I want that route. Or if I just buy it on CreateSpace even. Okay, that's $2 plus shipping. I'm going to make more than the $6, but it's a lot more work. And so the fun thing is, some days, just when you get that Amazon paycheck at the end of the month and you're like, oh my goodness, like, this is just free money because the power of Amazon, because it's on Amazon. And one last trick, they don't want you to know this. In fact, I've talked to an executive at CreateSpace because we were selling so much volume that their customer service is pretty poor. Yeah, they send you off to, it's Amazon, other countries when you're trying to talk to somebody. I tracked somebody down on LinkedIn because I knew we were selling more books than probably anybody on CreateSpace. Like, I was that confident. And I said, I need an executive to talk to me about this problem. And so he kind of filled me in on a few things after we had this conversation. So one time we got this check, and it was unheard of from Amazon. It was November of 2016. So it was right after Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And we only had 2 books right now for Jeff in the store for Amazon. It was these Creative Ways books. And we had been selling a lot online. And so one night I checked my Amazon report. I go on CreateSpace and it tells you daily, like, where you're at. And I remember I just looked at it and it was like, oh, they owe us like $25,000 for the month. I go on and it says they owed us $89,000. I called, Jeff lives in Hawaii. I called him. I was like, Jeff, go, like, look at this. I was freaking out. I was at the kitchen table. I was like, oh my goodness, this is a mistake. And we're like, Amazon made a mistake the best way ever. Like, how the heck are we getting $89,000 from Amazon? And that's when I tracked down this executive. And he's like, you know what? Amazon Prime, if a book is not in stock, and since CreateSpace ships on demand, sometimes it's super tough to get that in all our warehouses on Prime. So we'll actually pre-purchase from CreateSpace books that are doing really well. He's like, it's rare that we do that. And we'll buy a couple hundred copies or whatever. So he's like, hey, what's the name of your title? So I told him my titles. And he tells me, he's like, yeah, we don't tell anyone this because we don't want to promote this, that this is available. But we do this so we, especially around the holidays, we have these in stock ready to go because we'll sell more. This makes sense too, why they fluctuate in the price quite a bit, because they want to move quantities. He says, yeah, we just bought 3,000 copies of both those books. and they're divided up between our 6 warehouses, so we're ready to rock for the holidays. And so I called Jeff again. I was like, dude, that's it. And he goes, hey, just to warn you, your check-in this January and coming into next year, because we have inventory, will be a lot lower as we're not paying royalties, but we prepay your royalties on this. And mine was blown, going, not only can they not return it because they print it on demand, now we're not having to even pay for the inventory, and they're paying us prior to even selling 6,000 books now that happened. Obviously it made our Christmas, and we're just like, this is incredible. So I'm gonna just, always not be indebted to CreateSpace, but I'm gonna say, to get a book in and out the market, there's not a better solution, there's not a faster solution. And man, once that starts to go, take it from there. Now, what I love to do, like I said before, is now you take the video and you take the book, you distribute obviously the video series with the ebooks, and then you ship the physical products in addition. So that's those are the 2 products. I'll talk about this 3rd product now, would be a subscription service. And that could be a number of things. So I'm going to give you a few examples. And these aren't the first products, but I just want you to kind of start thinking about, well, what could I do on a recurring basis? Because we're going to get into this in a little bit of like, selling one product is great. And you can move a lot of products. Maybe it's a certain season, or, you've all seen it. Like, that product was a hot thing for Christmas and now nobody wants. Like, I just bought a fidget spinner for $1 because apparently nobody wants them anymore. So I got 10 for 10. So I'm gearing up. But I mean, there's those products that just, they go fast and then they die. So we're going to do those things, but it's also hard to keep selling on an ongoing basis. So once you develop a list, and we'll talk about email, we'll talk about all this later, but I want you to start thinking of, and this is where we start thinking immediately when we start working with a client, what could we do? What does our audience want from them on a monthly basis? So for our nonprofit, we have a subscription service for a software called X3 Watch. It monitors where you go online. It sends a report of any questionable site that you look at to an accountability partner. We call it accountability software. When you buy it from us, you get a book, one of those books that I got the rights back to, and you've got a video series, and you have this software. We're selling the software at $69 a year, and it's a software service. That's a recurring type product. We used to sell it for $6.99 a month, or now $69. Now we just sell it yearly. But there's 2 options there, and there's tons of different software and places to make that pretty easy. Well, if you're working with us, we're going to dive into what's the best one for your product. There's even the ability to do that now through the App Store and the Google Play Store. So you can have an app that's a recurring subscription. Our X3 Watch is that, and it's also software. We have the small group system online, where it's one group that you're in a week. Think of AA or SA locally. We put that online, where you meet in a video conference with a small group leader, and then you have some accountability throughout the week. We charge $39 a month for that service. We pay out our small group leaders, and we built the infrastructure on that. Those are 2 examples there. For the for-profit company, like I mentioned before, we have a marriage membership site with Jeff and Alyssa. One of the things there was just their community wanted ongoing information and access to them on an ongoing, daily basis. So we can't do that for 100,000 people or 800,000 people, but we can do that for a smaller niche. And so their website, you can go to jeffandalyssa.com. You can see what's offered in that marriage membership site. And that's a recurring revenue, either $190 a year or $19 a month. And you're getting that kind of access, a webcast. You're getting obviously some other video downloads and some bonus, type stuff. So those offerings are I throw that out to just get you thinking. Like, I don't know what your audience wants from you on a monthly basis, what they would pay for. Whether it's software, whether it's a service, whether it's community, whether it's ongoing, video teaching. I know several people that do online coaching on a monthly basis. I know people that sell just a number of different things on a recurring basis. I mean, think about it. How many things do you get in the mail monthly? I mean, I get Dollar Shave Club. My wife first season got Honest.com before I guess now you can just buy it at Target. There's, boxes every day I see on Instagram. Hey, here's a date box. Here's faith box. Here's, a box of clothes that somebody will send to you. I mean, there's all sorts of that. There's Leader Box. You get the hang of it. We're in a subscription kind of model world where it's just like, I even bought that toothbrush subscription where it was just like, oh, they send you new, it was lame, so I sent that one back. But that's the type of thing. If you can get that in a digital format instead of shipping physical goods each month, man, you're way ahead of the game. So start thinking out that. I'll give you one idea, and we're testing this right now with the liturgists. They have this community that is deconstructing. I don't know the word that you would call it, but there's a lot of people that grew up in church and they're kind of just wandering, so to speak, can't really find a church home, don't know if they want to still go to church, they don't know if they believe what they grew up listening to. And so in talking to those guys, I just was like, hey guys, I think we could break this model completely. Like a lot of your audience doesn't go to church, but they want community and they want the good things that kind of came from church. They just don't want all the garbage and the baggage. But I think they're empowered also, their leaders, to actually do something of their own. So I kicked around this idea of what about if we distributed on a weekly basis Sunday morning content? Well, this is still rough now. I don't even know, when you're watching this, if this will have come out. This is just an idea kind of where my mind goes. Called it Sunday school, because we all grow up going to Sunday school. So you would deliver a meditation, the liturgy, and a message on a weekly basis. Somebody gets it. They can open up their home, come over and sit on their couch and watch this. Or you can watch it by themselves on Thursday night, or you can watch it on Sunday. But if we believe hey, we want these people in community, they just don't want to go to church or find a church that they believe anymore, hey, why not you trust these guys and their voice, and you like their friends and the people that they have on their podcast? Granted, these guys have about 2 million downloads a week on their podcast. So if people are listening to you for an hour, hour and a half a week, what about if you provided what almost anyone growing up in church is expected to kind of go to church? You provided that offering to them. And then for me, it was just like you put a price tag on it. Instead of saying, hey, donate, no, hey, there's just, for us to go do this, there's going to be costs associated with this, but we'll deliver. And so one of the things that we're kicking around with them is this idea of what is that worth? How much would we sell it for? So that Gumroad idea that I gave you earlier is one that I've actually been talking to Mike about let's roll this out and see what your audience would pay and how they would respond to something like that before we go down that rabbit trail of doing a 52-week curriculum for a product that 5 people bought. So I want to be convinced, like I said, when you get into that, you're talking about a lot more expenses, a lot more ongoing things. A subscription, don't think you could sell anything, even if it's digital, that just goes on autopilot. No, you're going to have to put time and effort into it on an ongoing basis. You're going to have to track down credit cards that fail and all that sort of thing. So there's a lot more complications, but it's a great opportunity. One thing that we just did with Jeff and Alyssa, we launched the product. We launched that on your typical product launch formula, which I'll get into later, which is when you have an email list. It's not a launch that just says my product's available, go buy it. It's a warm up the audience for something's coming, get them involved in a free challenge, and then sell them something for a short period of time and then take it off the market. So it's kind of this idea of that scarcity, but beyond that, it's just, it works. Jeff Walker created this whole program. He's this genius online marketer, and it works. Several thousand people have gone through this program, and I've studied it. I'm in this group, actually, Jeff's group, learning more about this. I've watched a lot of people do it successfully. So anyways, we did that with Jeff and Alyssa. First time though for his audience, didn't know how they would respond, didn't know if it would work, didn't know if we priced it right. So some of those things we just kind of ran with, and we launched, and we were I wouldn't say disappointed. We just didn't know we didn't know what we didn't know. The fun thing about this kind of thing is you can launch again. There's no rule to say, oh, well, we screwed up, let's do it again next month. I watched Donald Miller launch when he launched StoryBrand and then relaunch it again in a way better way the second time. Because with every launch like this, you're going to learn more and more. And so we learned a lot. And actually the last day the cart was closing, I had some kind of light bulb moments go off where I was just like, man, we should have done this, should have done that, should have done that. And so one just quick trick we did was we got that exit survey information, and anybody that said price was an issue, because we didn't know, is this too high? And we've got some margin obviously to work with at $19 a month. We just said, hey, here's a link, pay what you want. I set it at $5 minimum because I didn't want the people like me that are gonna just pay $1. Because man, no, there's a lot of work involved in this. But just set it at $5. And we actually just today surpassed the number of signups in this second week. So we had the 1 week launch, we launched everybody, and then we have the second week. And the second week pay as you went has actually proven to be more successful than the first week. The margins, obviously, like we got $19 a month for the first group. We're averaging right now about $11.75 on a pay as you go. So what that told me is, yeah, maybe we did price this too high, or maybe when we gave people that option, they just took advantage of it. So either way, we learned a lot on that release where we've got a lot of data, a lot of information for our next launch. And that's the fun part. We can do it again. You can learn a lot the first time, and you can get better and better with each launch. So if you're working with us, or if you're out there on your own and you're going, hey, what should I start with? I would recommend, video series, books, and then, try and build your list. And we'll talk about that later, on different ways to do that. But then trying to figure out what could you sell on a subscription basis. Now, those would be our core products that I'm going to suggest. Obviously, there are some other opportunities to sell additional products and add-ons, iPhone cases, posters, prints, t-shirts, hats, bags, pillows, a number of those things that I would say, I'm not going to ever work with somebody that just says, oh, this is what I got. There's great margin and there's great opportunities to be able to sell additional products. So if I have a video series, like we're launching a video series called Finding Freedom with Elizabeth Gee and Sadie Robertson. The designer that did the book for that and the whole layout, he just sent me this stuff. I didn't even ask for him. Hey, this would be cool in a hat, or this would be a great print. So additional stuff like that, for sure you've got to do. The Liturgist, the course that they did on the Enneagram, they have all these sayings about the different numbers. If you've taken the Enneagram, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm a 3. And so on the 3, it just says, does this shirt make me look successful? And it's got, this image on it. And so we created some fun shirts, prints, iPhone cases for that series that I think, I don't want to say it's better, obviously, the video series is great, but some of these shirts and this stuff, I bet will attract people that don't even know the Liturgist, don't even watch the video series. They just want a shirt with their number on it, and that's hard to find right now. The video that I have later about how to sell stuff like that without having any risk, you've got to watch that if you're all interested. So, and then we'll talk about Shopify, how that makes it all easier. So, don't get ahead, or if you want to just jump right to that video, feel free. But what the beauty is on that is, let's say you take a book for $15, you're going to make, say $6, $7 on it. But if somebody adds on an iPhone case for $20 and you're making 10 on that, or a t-shirt, your margins are going higher, which is going to obviously leave more room for you to spend the money to acquire the customer through, say, Facebook ads or any other kind of advertising. Or if you don't have advertising costs and you just have a huge audience, it's going to get you higher profit when you have a higher cart value. So that's key. I don't say those are core products, but they're definitely fun. Your audience definitely probably wants them, and it is easier than ever to do that today. So jump ahead if you want that. But those are our core products that I would suggest you look into and you consider, obviously, launching any or all of those things that we talked about today. So thanks again. See you next time.